Welcome back to episode 7 of the Sleepy podcast. If you do enjoy this video, remember to like and subscribe at the start, as you may be asleep by the end. Today I'm reading the article Veep, the American TV series. Veep is an American political satire comedy television series that aired on HBO from April the 22nd, 2012 to May the 12th, 2019. The series was created by Armando Iannucci as an adaptation from his sitcom The Thick of It. The protagonist of The Veep is Selina Meyer. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a fictional vice president of the United States. The series follows Meyer and her team as they attempt to make their mark and leave a legacy, but often become mired in day-to-day political games. Veep received critical acclaim and won several major awards, including several consecutive nominations for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Comedy Series, winning that award for its 4th, 5th, and 6th series. In 2nd, 4th, and 6th seasons, won the Writers Guild of America Award for Television Comedy Series, and its 3rd series won the Television Critics Association Award for Outstanding Achievement in Comedy. Louis-Dreyfus' performance won her 6 consecutive Primetime Emmy Awards, 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards, 2 Critics' Choice Television Awards, a Television Critics Association Awards, and 5 consecutive Golden Globes nominations. For his portrayal of Selina Meyer's personal aide, Gary, Tony Hale received 6 consecutive Emmy nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, winning in 2013 and 2015. Other members of the cast who received Emmy nominations included Anna Chomsky, 6 nominations, Gary Cole, 1 nomination, Matt Walsh, 2 nominations, Martin Mull with 1 nomination, Hugh Laurie, 1 nomination, and Peter Nickrell, 1 nomination. Synopsis. The series follows the personal life and political career of Selina Meyer, Vice President and later President of the United States. Her party affiliation is never discussed, although it's hinted in the 4th series finale that she's Democratic. Formerly a United States Senator from Maryland, Meyer campaigns for her party's nomination in the 2012 presidential elections and is initially the frontrunner, but ultimately loses the nomination to Stuart Hughes. Meyer subsequently joins Hughes' ticket as the running mate and is elected Vice President. Her staff as Vice President, upon whom Meyer is almost totally reliant, include the Chief of Staff, Amy Bruckheimer, Director of Communications, Mike McClintock, Deputy Director of Communications, Dan Egan, Bodyman, Gary Walsh, and Personal Secretary, Sue Wilson. Later additions to her team as President include White House Chief of Staff, Ben Cafferty, Political Strategist, Kent Davidson, Jonah Ryan, initially a White House liaison to the President office, and later a New Hampshire congressman, also features prominently. Meyer frequently finds herself relegated and ignored by Hughes, who is never depicted on screen and is the outset of the series. I'm going to try not to read too much more of the synopsis, as it may include bigger spoilers. Cast and synopsis. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Selina Meyer, born as Selina Catherine Eaton, a former US Senator from Maryland who in the start of the series is the Vice President, or Veep, who later has a strained relationship with the President. Amy Chomsky as Amy Bruckheimer, the Vice President's Chief of Staff. She credits herself as the Vice President's troubleshooter and problem solver, issue mediator, doubt remover, conscience examiner, thought thinker, and all-round everything doer. Amy is constantly sacrificing her own reputation to save Lena's political credibility. She's also known to be uptight and overly dedicated to her career, unwilling to settle down and have children, much of the dismay to her family. She has a romantic history with Dan and may still have feelings for him. She has a few different boyfriends throughout the series, including fundraising for Selina, a Nevada politician. Amy becomes Selina's campaign manager during her presidential run, but resigns as a result of a brief appointment of an equivalating, young, old friend of Selina's to the campaign team. Tony Hale as Gary Walsh, Selina's personal aide and bodyman, a long-term associate and confidant of Selina. Gary is portrayed as incredibly loyal and devoted. Despite his menial job, Gary is actually a graduate of Cornell University, having majored in hotel management. In the 4th and 5th series, Gary is portrayed as having issues adapting to Selina's presidency, since he can no longer be as close to her as he previously was due to the lack of security clearance. When Selina fails to win re-election, he remains on her as a personal aide. Hale describes Gary's loyalty to Selina, stemming from the idea of the character is one of those guys who never really had an identity. He attached himself to people who has one. Hale received 2 Primetime Emmy Awards for his performance in the series, with 4 further nominations. Scott is Dan Egan, the Deputy Director of Communications in the Vice President's office. Dan is highly ambitious, cutthroat, up-and-comer in DC, who takes pride in his contacts and networking skills. He has dated the daughters of influential politicians to get ahead in his career. He often headbutts Amy, whom he has previously dated. He has a brief stint as Selena's campaign manager for a presidential campaign, but is fired in that position after having a nervous breakdown following several crises in London. Timothy Simmons is Jonah Ryan, the White House liaison to the Vice President. He constantly crashes with most of the members of the Veep's office, particularly Amy. It is shown that he is disliked by everyone he encounters, even foreign politicians. In the 3rd series, he is temporarily fired from the White House for running a blog disclosing insider information, leading him to create his own website, Ryantology. In Series 4, he works again as liaison, this time between President Meyer and Vice President Deutsch. Information about him on the Wikipedia page, however I'm reluctant to read it out due to the nature of what's written, as it's not very wholesome and not very sleepy. Matt Walsh is Mike McClintock, the Vice President's Director of Communications. Mike has served her as Communications Director since her tenure as Senator from Maryland. His career dedication is often questionable, to the extent where he pretends to have a pet dog so he can escape from work commitments. The other characters in the show often mock his lack of ambition, suggesting that he's reached the peak of his career. He is often portrayed as lacking the skills required for the job. In the 3rd series, when he marries a reporter named Wendy Keegan. In Series 4, Mike becomes the White House press secretary. In Series 5, Mike and Wendy attempt to adopt a baby. They ultimately adopt a Chinese toddler, and they also have twins via surrogate. In Series 6, he is employed by Selena to write her biography, A Woman First, but causes a scandal soon after its publication. Soof Bradshaw is Sue Wilson, the Vice President's personal secretary, a direct no-nonsense personality. Sue boasts that she is the 3rd most important person in the world, as she is the one who arranges for people to see Selena, the 2nd most important person in the world. During a committee inquiry into Selena's office, the chairperson states that Sue could organise the D-Day landings and still have time for Iwo Jima. Sue becomes the White House chief scheduling for that White House in Series 4. She remains in that capacity when President Montez is inaugurated. Bradshaw based her character on the DMV employee, elaborating that DMV workers straight-laced and go by the book, and they don't have much time because there's much to do in one day. Dunn is Ben Cafferty, the White House Chief of Staff, under both the unforeseen President and President Meyer. Although he is depressed and a high-functioning alcoholic, he is often insightful and treated with respect, and even with fear throughout Washington. Ben shows little regard for his co-workers or his job, and he appears to love his 9 cups of coffee thermos more than anything else. Selena refers to him as a burnt-out loser, but he apparently considers her a close friend and resolves to become her president. Gary Cole as Kent Davidson, the senior strategist to the president, under both the unseen President Hughes and later President Meyer. He is a number cruncher and often referred to as being cold and robotic. His obsession with polling statistics is shown to negatively influence the president's decision-making during several episodes in the 2nd season. Kent is also focused on public images of Selena and Catherine. It is implied that he and Sue have some sort of relationship. Although Selena initially dislikes him, she comes to appreciate his using polling and statistical data. Richardson as Richard Splett, an amiable but not always competent campaign aide who fills in for Gary during Selena's book tour, later becoming Amy's assistant on Selena's presidential campaign, and briefly Jonah's personal assistant. Splett is cheerful and often the butt of jokes. In Series 5, Selena promotes Richard after discovering that he has a doctorate in electoral law, and as part of Selena's promotion, Jonah becomes his assistant. When Jonah is elected to Congress, Richard becomes his chief of staff. Richard makes many allusions on his blog, spletnet.net. After losing the presidency, Selena hires him to be his chief of staff in the Meyer Fund. During Season 6, he becomes a sperm donor for Catherine and Murray's baby. Laura Sutherland as Catherine Meyer, Selena's reserved and put-upon daughter. Catherine is often caught in the middle of Selena's issues, especially with her father. She is shown as generally unable to gain her mother's respect or attention. She tends to have highly liberal views concerning social justice. During the first 4 seasons, she attracts a major Vista college. She briefly attracts attention for dating a Persian student. Later, she dates and becomes more engaged to lobbyists whom mother dislikes. Selena initiates the demise of a relationship by declaring that they've broken up during an inquiry into her administration. Catherine goes along with the breakup to protect her mother. She is seen in the 5th series filming a documentary based on the unprecedented Electoral College tie, and concludes Selena's presidential run, and she becomes romantically involved with her mother's lookalike bodyguard, Marjorie. The Thick of It BBC series. Before creating Veep, British satirist Armando Iannucci created the BBC sitcom The Thick of It, set in a fictional department of the British government. The Thick of It was first broadcast in 2005 and won a number of awards. Iannucci directed a spin-off film, In the Loop, which was released in 2009 and nominated for the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. BBC pilot. A pilot for an American version of The Thick of It was produced as a candidate for the 2007-2008 season on ABC, also titled The Thick of It. It was developed for American audiences by writers Mick Hurwitz and Richard Day, and followed a low-level member of the United States Congress and his staff. Iannucci had a production credit on the show but was not otherwise involved. The pilot was produced by Sony Pictures Television and BBC Worldwide, and directed by Christopher Guest. In the pilot, John Higgins played a newly elected Congressman, Albert Alger, and Oliver Platt played the committee chairman, Malcolm Tucker. HBO development of Veep. After The Thick of It was dropped by ABC, several networks including HBO, Showtime and NBC expressed interest in adapting the show. Iannucci re-entered talks with HBO, his initial preference, about adapting the series, with the result of a new pilot episode for the series being situated in an office of the Vice President of the United States, called Veep, and was commissioned in late 2009. Iannucci was given much more creative control over production and co-wrote the pilot episode with British comedy writer Simon Blackwell, who also contributed to The Thick of It, the British series. In April 2011, HBO announced that it had ordered Veep as a series, and later announced in January 2012 that the series would premiere on April 22, 2012. Louis Dreyfus described Veep's interest as a president on the screen, or to reveal the political party. Directors for Series 1 included Armando Iannucci, Trishman Shapiro, and Chris Morris. Veep is the executive produced by Iannucci and Christopher Godsick and Frank Rich. Co-executive producers are Simon Blackwell, Tony Roach, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Stephanie Lang as producers. The series' first 4 series featured an entirely British writing staff, including Iannucci, Blackwell, Roach, Sean Gray, Will Smith, Roger Drew, Ian Martin, Andy Riley, Kevin Cecil, David Quantick, Julia Pritchett, and Jesse Armstrong, among others, many of whom had previously worked with Iannucci on The Thick of It. Series creator Armando Iannucci departed as showrunner for the following 4th series' end of production. Iannucci stated that his continuing busy schedule, as well as the challenging of maintaining his family life while switching between Baltimore and London, would not allow him to dedicate 100% as head of the show. As a result, David Mandel took over showrunning for future episodes, becoming Veep's first American writer. Mandel retained a small number of Iannucci's writing staff, as well as Chris Addison as directing and supervising producer, whilst also bringing in his own staff and American writers. Filming. The pilot episode was filmed on February 2011 in Maryland, and filming of the series began in October 2011 in Baltimore. After several months of rehearsing designed to get actors comfortable improvising with one another, for its first series, Veep reportedly hired 978 local Maryland residents, generating $40 million for the state. According to the Maryland Film Office, Series 2 production began shooting in November 2012, continuing to film in Baltimore and other areas of Maryland. Veep primarily filmed on a soundstage constructed from Columbia, Maryland Initial Warehouse, where replicas and places such as the Eisenhower Executive Office Building and the West Wing were also built. The show continued filming in Maryland for the 3rd and 4th series, as a bill was approved by the state lawmakers. In April 2013, that increased tax credits for the film and TV productions in the state. Later filming locations included the Annapolis and the Physical Science Complex in the university. Principal photography moved from Baltimore to Los Angeles in the show's 5th season, including being one of the few series to be awarded tax incentives from the California Film Commission as part of the expanded $330 million California Film Tax Credit Program signed by Governor Jerry Brown in 2014. Filming took place for part of the show's 5th series in Washington, D.C., from February 25, 2016 to the March 3, 2016. As a result, HBO's Community Impact Program, a select number of local DC residents, also worked on the production during the 8-day film shoot in the area. Areas in DC where production was reportedly found filming included the Superior Court, Spring Valley Neighborhood, and the DuPont Circle, Camerbrook's Independence Bookstore. Series 1. The first series of Veep generally received positive reviews from television critics. Review aggregator Metacritic gave the season a score of 72 out of 100 based on reviews from 30 critics. The review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reports a 78% approval rating, with an average rating of 7.22 out of 10 based on 46 reviews. The site's consensus reads, "The jokes are funny and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a great lead, but Veep is still working to find its voice." Hank Stuever of the Washington Post praised the series' writing. "Thanks to Louis-Dreyfus, the show is remarkably knack for dialogue and timing. Veep is instantly engaging and outrageously fun." 2. The second series received acclaim from critics. It averaged a Metascore of 75 out of 100 based on reviews from 10 critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, it received a 92% approval rating with an average score of 8.59 out of 10 based on 24 reviews. The site's consensus reads, "In Veep's second season, the satire is sharper, the insights are deeper, the tone is more consistent, and the result of the comedy is unexpected heft." Season 3. In the third season, received acclaim from its critics. It received a Metacritic score of 86 out of 100 based on 10 reviews. It scored a 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes with average rating of 8.64 out of 10 based on 26 reviews. The site's consensus reads, "Veep continuing its winning streak with a mix of smart comedy, bright performances, and a refreshing approach to DC politics." Season 4. The fourth series received acclaim from critics. It received a Metascore of 90 out of 100 based on 11 reviews. As with the previous season, Veep scored 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 25 reviews, with an average rating of 9.12 out of 10. The site consensus reads, "Veep shows no sign of slowing down in its fourth season, thanks to the sharp, funny, rapid-fire dialogue between POTUS and a hilariously incompetent staff." 5. The fifth series received acclaim from critics. It received a Metacritic score of 88 out of 100 based on 18 reviews. The season scored 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 36 reviews, with an average rating of 8.66 out of 10. The site's consensus read, "Thanks to a spot-on comic prowess from Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the series and company Veep is back with many laughs and expletive-filled absurdities as ever." Season 6. The sixth season received acclaim from critics. On Metacritic, it has a score of 88 out of 100 based on 15 reviews, indicating universal acclaim. It has a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 36 reviews, with an average score of 8.17 out of 10. The site's consensus reads, "A move from the White House hasn't dulled Veep's razor-sharp satirical edge." Season 7. The seventh series received critical acclaim. On Metacritic, it has a score of 87 out of 100 based on 20 reviews, indicating universal acclaim. It has a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 59 reviews with an average score of 8.94 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, "Bash and bonkers as ever, Veep bows out an unapologetically absurd final series and solidifies its status as one of TV's greatest comedies." That's all from today's episode of the Sleepy Podcast. But if you are still awake, feel free to listen to any of the other episodes, and there is a playlist where you can listen to all of them together on the channel. Thank you for listening, and good night.